Hey everybody, my name's Derek. I'm with GameWorn Radio. We're a part of GameWorn.us. I've got Jason and Marco here with me to talk about some equipment sales and anything that happens to come along. So if you guys want to introduce yourself one by one, Jason, go ahead.
I am Jason Noyes, go by Doc Noise on the forum. Been around quite a while and in and out of buying and selling for quite a bit. Big blues and Riverman fan.
Yeah, I'm Marco. Marco Polo on the forums from Toronto. Sad Leafs collector, but I guess now is probably the best time for that because all of their shit will probably be going down in value.
Same way with the blues, Marco.
Well, I'm a Red Wing fan myself, so we're not looking very pretty either. All
You
right,
guys are going
so
with Babcock.
yeah, so
We're gonna
equipment
take it
sales,
from
you
you.
guys.
And see, they're saying it. Some people want him in St. Louis too. We'll switch one cock for another.
Oh, that's great.
I win.
So, equipment sales. You guys know I've been to a few myself. What kind of sales have you guys been to? Tell me a little bit about your experience.
Go ahead, Marco.
Well, to be quite honest, I've never been to an equipment sale before, and the reason for that, it was held by it was so the Maple Leafs just got on board with My Gray this last season. Before that was all Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. They called it Real Sports, and I guess you have something you want to buy, and for for a team that finishes where the Leafs finish, it's not very attractive to go to those. And on top of that, I personally find that they really jack up the prices. MLSC is great for that, right? They make the most money out of any hockey franchise, so they're really horrible with their pricing. So personally for me, I mean I'm open for discussion, but I don't see the value in it from Toronto's
Now, with
perspective.
the Leafs last year, didn't they have an event where they had a bunch of equipment, but you had to buy tickets to get into the event to be able to go
Oh,
to
that
the
was
equipment
that was
sale?
fanfare, which is
Fanfare.
it's just another way for them to make, or fan fest. It's another way for them to make ridiculous, stupid amounts of money. So
Gotta love stupid amounts of money.
yeah, yeah. Wish I owned the Leafs.
and
Jason, how
and
about
all the
you?
team, a lot of the teams are like that. Is they do? I know Chicago does that to a point where they're big fan fest where you got to pay crazy ass ticket prices, and a lot of the equipment's the big name guys and it's signed and different things. I know they sold on some board. I saw the guys bought Crawford Stanley Cup pads and they were signed and all that. And I think he may have paid like 2 grand,
Oh,
but
that's
yeah,
That's
awesome.
actually not
it
bad.
That's not.
no,
That's
not
really
for
not that
that.
bad.
But comparing, and I got spoiled for a while with the Peoria Rivermen when they were in the AHL. Being the Blues affiliate, you'd see a lot of stuff come back and forth. And one of the longtime collectors, Jeff Jones, does help them do stuff up there. Well, he did help run the sale, and then I actually talked him into bringing down what was left into my town because we have tons of guys that play hockey that like pro gear, and the Rivermen usually did it pretty well. The pricing was pretty good. Gloves for like 30 to 50 bucks. I think helmets were in that price range. I think sticks were 100, and you'd end up with some that were brand new. One he had sold Ben Bishop's goalie gear. I think that was $500 for the set. Um, and then with the Blues, it's gotten bigger in the last few years. But the problem with the Blues is they don't put out much warning. It's last season. I think it was 3 days before the sale. They put it out there that they were going to have it, and it was at Scott Trade. But previous to that, it had been really small sales that they'd put out like the day before. And a lot of the reason last year's I think was so big too is they were changing the jersey design, so they were ditching anything that had the old stripes on the pants, all that. But it was on the floor of Scott Trade. I got there at 7:30 in the morning. The sale opened at 10, and I was maybe fifth or sixth in line. We got down to the floor, and there was 5 or 6 sets of Halak and Allen pads, skates everywhere, lots of gloves, helmets, tons of like training camp jerseys, lots of pants. But it was, and they did it. They at the start they did it right. They let a handful of people in at a time. So the floor wasn't too crazy, and just the infighting. But once they let more and more people in there, the rest of us that were still in there kind of got a little trampled. But their pricing wasn't bad. Their sticks, I think, started at like 100 and a quarter, and the most expensive were maybe 175. And the more you bought, the cheaper the price was.
See,
But
I would go to a jersey or an equipment sale like that, and I'll tell you, the Leafs, they did their last equipment sale. Okay, fine, you can get Kessel and Fanuff, I guess, if that's your cup of tea, right? But those, a set of gloves, Kessel and Fanuff, they go for, like $600, $500 or $600, right? And these guys are by no, I mean, they're superstars in their own right, but I mean, they're not legendary players. And see, so I'll look at this from a different point of view. My experience with MLS, the way MLS and E runs it is, it's just all overpriced, garbage. I mean, I was down at, they just had the Toronto Sports Card Expo on 2 weekends ago, and I got a pair of Matt Sundin gloves for $300, right? So you guys have to understand my point of view. Whereas I would never want to go to a sale set up by Real Sports or MLSC, because, I mean, if you wait, you usually get a much better deal. Right?
sure, the secondary market, either they overpaid, or back when those
That's
were
right.
sold, they weren't selling for crazy ass money. Well, and
That's
like
right.
I was telling Derek before we started this, at the sale I got Barrett Jackman's really nice gloves. It didn't look like he'd worn them a whole lot. They were $50.
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't like Jackman. He's not an ultra superstar, but he's one of the guys I like and respect. And at that price, I play goalie and forward. Half the time, I'm buying that stuff to play in
You were in
anyway.
Barrett Jackman's gloves when you're out on the ice,
Yeah, and I played terrible just like he has lately.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that.
Why you
But
laugh?
it's all how you manage it. Is you've got some teams that the gear is just the gear, and they're not overpricing it to because somebody's name's on it. Because they had, I mean, they had a crap ton of Oshie sticks and Tarasenko sticks, and they were, I think, maybe 175. Which, to buy those sticks in the store is is 250 to 300. So I mean, you're saving
Yeah,
money,
yeah,
and if collectors or players, that's not a terrible price. The goalie pads, Allen and Elliott's goalie pads last year were 500, and they had some Halak ones in there as well. And $500 for really good goalie pads is cheap as hell.
Well, I think Reimers and Bernier's at the Toronto sale were around $2,000.
Ooh.
Ouch.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. And I will say this, that sport, it's supply and demand, and certain sports markets are larger than others or whatever. And hockey is, in Toronto anyways, it's obviously very popular. So it was funny, you were saying that you got there at 7:30 and in the lineup, so 3.5 hours before roughly, and maybe there's 5 or 6 people in the line. I know at the MLSE sale, there were hundreds of people lined up hours before. So it's a little bit, and these are not necessarily even game worn collectors, right? They're just
Fans.
Leafs fans. So
Sure.
I think
It's
I think the demographic the demographic affects it a lot as well.
Sure, you do get a big mix, and I know following the sales that you guys have posted up, like the talking about the University of Ohio one, where you
Oh, that
got
was
guys,
brutal.
yeah, that don't give two shits about the players, the jerseys, whatever, want to buy them and flip them.
Yeah.
That pisses people off too. The same way I have a big
Mhm.
issue with auto, over autograph hounds, where they show up at practices with 10 pucks or pictures or whatever, and it's pissing the players off when they're seeing that stuff getting sold. And it's got to be, there's got to be a balance there somewhere.
Well, I've noticed two things, or two types of teams when it comes to the equipment sales. You have the teams that are selling the equipment as used equipment, and then you have the teams that sell the equipment as memorabilia. And you
That's
can
a great point.
distinctly tell the two different styles of teams based solely on the prices. I
Sure.
haven't gotten an opportunity to go to the San Jose Sharks sale, but I've gotten to hear about it for the past 3 years, and it's absolutely astonishing. I know I've gotten hooked up with some sticks when they have like just massive amounts of overstocks of sticks, and they're such good prices that I ship them from San Jose to Ohio.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly the way to do that.
And that, I think that fosters good relationships between the team and the fans, right? Which is what I really think. I mean, you can only make so much. I mean, when you compare it to the least making, $90 or $100 million, how much are you really going to make selling a fucking used stick or helmet, right? I mean, so to me, I get that the Toronto market's really big. It's just it leaves a sour taste in my mouth when they do it. It reminds me of what Steiner does, you know.
Oh God, let's crank out a few more of the same players' jerseys. He hadn't worn 10 this week.
I think what a
Yeah,
lot of teams fail to realize is how much these can affect their fan base. Like, I would have never cared too much about the Sharks, really. I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan. But they've hooked me up with gear in the past at great sales prices. I've gotten sticks for players on my team. I've gotten gloves and different things like that from the Sharks. And before that, I didn't give two shits about the Sharks. And now I'm kind of like, I really like the Sharks organization. And they were reaching out to people one time and they're like, we need an authentic jersey of our first style. And I just happen to have a couple. So I sent them out there and they put it in a new kids medical ward that they were building in the hospital. And
Oh,
they're
that's
framed up.
awesome.
It's really
That's
cool.
cool.
I would have never have done that otherwise. But they've done some really cool stuff. And so now I'm kind of a fan of the Sharks when they're not playing the Red Wings.
Sure.
And it's just a way to reach out to fans that are not in your limited locale. A lot of teams really fail to miss like the marketing opportunities and the amount of money that they can make when they expand outside of just their small little niche market, because there's fans of your team from all over the world. You should
Sure,
touch
There's
them
a
all.
lot. There's a lot of Toronto fans looking to jump ship right now.
San Jose may have to reel in some Toronto people,
Yeah,
but it's
maybe.
it's a PR thing. If you get good people that are good in PR and marketing and working with the people that do the equipment sales, you can make it so much better. You want to see bad PR? Look at Tampa Bay right now. They pissed off their local fans, a lot of the ones that are the snowbirds, because they're not allowing Montreal Canadiens wear in certain sections of the arena.
Oh,
I had
that's brutal.
a friend of mine that works for Disney bought season tickets for Tampa so he could watch the Hawks and root for Tampa when they weren't playing the Hawks. And when they pulled that at the end, when playoffs were coming up about you can't wear other team stuff in certain areas, him and two friends called up and said, we don't want season tickets next year anymore. Refund our money. And they laid it all out. And it's all about PR. And some teams get it and some teams don't.
It really
It's what-
is.
Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
The crazy thing about all of that is we're all hockey fans. And a lot of
Exact-
people fail to realize that fact. Like when you go to a game and fans are picking fights with other people. I mean, there's some joshing around, but when you start getting serious about some of the stuff that you're saying, it just goes beyond that line. Like, we're all hockey fans. We should be happy that everybody is a fan of hockey. Because if you look at some of the other stupid sports that I hate, like basketball and baseball, I can't stand those sports, or at least watching them on television. I love watching hockey on television. I love going to hockey games. And even if you're on a different team, I think it's great that you're a fan of hockey. I mean, 10 years
Sure,
ago,
because
it wasn't nearly as big as it is now.
exactly. Well, look at the three of us. You're a Wings fan. I'm a Blues fan. Marco's a Leafs
Toronto
fan,
Leafs
and we're
fan.
all coming together and talking hockey. And yeah, all our teams are having crappy years.
Oh, tell me about it.
But we're all getting together to be able to talk about this.
Your team's made the playoffs. Okay, I want to make that perfectly. There's a big difference
Well,
between what you guys are talking about and the level Leafs are on.
Yeah, that's
you
very
guys, I
true.
think, were golfing about what
Oh.
September.
They were already reserving the golf course while they're still playing. Never mind.
Training
Yeah.
camp. They're making
Yeah,
reservations for the
yeah.
end of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's and I'm waiting for the Blues to put out the date for their sale. Like I said, they're usually 3 or 4 days before anymore, and I wish they would be a little bit more ahead of the game. But I think a lot of it's with they're getting the stuff together, and I don't know what size sale it'll be this year. Like I said, last year they cleared out a crap ton because of switching the design of the jerseys and the stripes on the pants and that. But I mean, they had tons of brand new gear. Because I like I say, I like wearing the pro gear, so I bought the Warrior shoulder pads, brand new with the tags. I think were $75. Helmets player helmets were even, I think, 50 or 75. They even had the U.S. Olympic bags, like the stick bags and any of the bags that went to the Olympics that were being sold, and none of the pricing was out of line. Even the skates, most of which were brand new. I mean, some were the player skates, ranged anywhere from $25 to 200. But at the end of the day, they were selling brand new APX skates for $50 just to get them out of there.
Oh,
You know
that's
what?
great.
See, to further that, why don't they put a different spin on it? Why don't they make it a charity event? I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's pocket change for these teams. Why not make that part of your charity write-off for the year, so to speak? I don't understand why more teams don't take that angle, because that should be an event primarily for the fans. So I would definitely go. I would be way more inclined to go if I knew it was going to proceeds, at least, were going to charity. But
Well, so far we've just been talking about NHL teams. We should take a minute to talk about some of the underleague teams. Just recently, I got the chance to go to an AHL team's garage sale, we'll call it, and uh, the Grand Rapids Griffins. And I took the trip from Ohio to the Griffins game, and they had it at right before the beginning of the game. And the cool thing for me also is it's the Griffins, so they're
yeah,
the farm team
That
for
is
Detroit,
a cool
my
team.
team.
I like that team.
So, and it was really cool. I mean, there was a number of reasons I went to the game. One was because I found out that the garage sale was going to be that day. The other reason is they were also having a jersey auction. So not only are they having a garage sale, but a jersey auction. So you're kind of getting two things for one, and it's the last game of the year. I mean, it doesn't get better than that going to last game. And I'd never been to a Griffins game before. So
see, that's a smart little twist to put on it, right?
yeah, I mean, it worked out really great. My buddy Chad, I'm actually trying to get Chad in on the call here right now. Hopefully he'll get connected. We'll hear him in a little bit if he's got a microphone. But he got me up there. We ate, then we went over to the garage sale when they opened up, and it was really cool. I got into the garage sale. The prices were fantastic. They actually had jerseys at the garage sale, the red jerseys. So we were able to get jerseys at the garage sale. Then after the game, they had the jersey auction, and the prices were fantastic. I'm actually really mad I don't have a time machine to go back in time to buy more stuff. I mean, I thought that garage sale was fantastic. Some of the prices that they had. I mean, skates were $60. Gloves and helmets, I think, were $40. Sticks were $100. I know Chad walked away with a Nyquist, I think. I actually see Chad right now. Hi, Chad.
Hi, Derek.
He's looking. Hey, Chad. How's it going? Just talking about the Griffin sale, man, that you got me in. But it was really a lot of fun. I ended up walking away with, I think, 3 red jerseys from the sale. I got a helmet, a bunch of socks, and the cool thing with the socks is they had a table just for socks, and they were $1 a pair. And then when you go to
awesome.
you
Those
go
are
to
the nice
pay
Ed
for
socks too, aren't
these
they?
socks, right? And it's $1 a pair. You go to pay, and they're like, "We're not going to take your dollar. Just donate $1 to charity later at some point." So they're pretty much giving away socks. It was fantastic. Goalie pads. They had 2 sets of goalie pads, and me being a goalie and loving pro gear, I ended up snagging both sets of pads. I got Thomas McCollum and Jared Crow pads. I love them. They're the best pads I've ever had. I haven't gotten a chance to use them yet, but I put those things on. They're sweet. I found
How was
photo
their
matches
pricing on
for them.
that?
$200 for the pair, each pair.
Damn.
Yeah, I am totally stoked about it. I want to go every year and get the pads. I mean, that would be my main focus. But I got a couple great jerseys. I know Chad picked up some skates. Like, I went in with a wad of cash. I was ready to drop $3,000 cool. I went in with $3,000 cash money. And I ended up walking out with well more than half.
Wow,
I should have
awesome.
bought way more gear. I don't know why I didn't. I should have cleaned that place out.
And see, like somebody like you though, it's some's going to be collectible, but you're also going to use it too. It's not just going to sit in the basement, or you're not going to flip it like some other people do. Because that's one thing you'll see with the blue sale is some will go because they want a certain player and that means a lot to them. They'll go get it signed. It'll sit on their shelf, which is fine. Others go and buy this stuff, and within 3 hours, you're seeing it on Craigslist or eBay being flipped at 3 times the money.
I felt really bad when I bought those pads because I had a bunch of people after I got them home finally and got pictures taken of them and stuff, which was really funny because the sale was before the game. So then after the sale, you go to the game, but you can't leave the arena. So here I am with 2 sets of goalie pads, walking around the arena.
Maybe they were thinking you were going to get called up and play in the game.
I was telling them they actually were playing like crap that game. I told them I would go suit up and get in. I had no problem doing that. But yeah, I mean, I posted pictures and people were like, "Will you sell them to me? Will you sell them to me?" And I'm like, and that's the hard part I have with my jerseys that I get too, is when I get something, I get it because I want it. So getting it off of me is a really hard thing to do. Like I'm a hard person to trade with, and I'm a hard person to buy my stuff because everything I have is stuff that I want. I never get anything that I don't want.
No, I'm like that too. I've actually never sold any of my memorabilia, so it's the same thing. It's annoying because you see all those posts always, people bragging about their stuff not for sale, and you're like, oh damn it. But I understand where you're coming from. I wanted to talk about a different angle. I mean, how successful are these team sales typically, do you guys think? I mean, you guys have obviously been more than I have, but are they typically like, people lined up, especially the AHL team? Curious about how many people were actually at that event.
Chad, how many people would you say were there? I mean, I kind of took a step back just to oogle at the pads that I picked up for a while there. I know you were hustling and bustling around there for a bit longer after I was done.
It kind of all depends, I guess. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Perfectly.
Yep, you're good.
All right. I was talking to Derek a little earlier. I'm a little new to this whole Skyping thing, so but bear with me. We got there early. We were fifth, sixth, and seventh. My daughter went in with us right off the go. Derek went up for jerseys. I went over and looked at some sticks. My daughter picked up some helmets and things that she wanted. But right off the bat, I would say there was a good line of 40, 50 of the season ticket holders waiting to get in line. Doors opened up at 5:45 for the season ticket holders, and then everybody else was in at 6 o'clock. The general public. Once the doors opened up and people started getting in, I mean, it was shoulder to shoulder. At any given time, I would think maybe 100, 150 people. It was a relatively small room, though. Everything was pretty much spread out. Helmets here, like Derek was saying, socks there. And they were bringing in some other stuff a little bit later on after the first rush of people came in. They brought in some more sticks and things like that as well. No extra jerseys or anything, but I would say between 100, maybe 150 at any given time in there until all the majority of stuff was gone from Derek.
Yeah, you got me with my goalie pads and my fat stack of equipment off in the corner, like waiting for a good spot to go up and pay the guy, because I didn't want to be that guy that's trying to like be a single person trying to get through a door with like all your goalie equipment. I mean, you know how that goes, Jason. You're a goalie.
Oh God, yeah.
But like you're trying to pay the man and move all this stuff at the same time. I was just like, I'll just wait till most people are done. I still have people coming up like, oh, are these pads for sale? These pads for sale? I'm like, well, they were at one point.
You should have said yeah for $400.
I wouldn't sell them for $400. I bought them because I wanted them, man. I got that problem.
Sure, and I will say, going back over the years, because I'm more experienced with the Riverman sales than the Blues. Like I said, I've been to both. The Rivermen had always been mobbed when they were in the AHL. You get because that fan base up there was a very dedicated one, and you get a lot of people wanting particular players' stuff. God, going back mid 2000s. I wasn't able to make the sale, but I called up there looking for goalie pads, and I bought a pair of Curtis Sanford nice Eagle goalie pads. I think I paid $150.
Old school.
Yes, very old school. But though that sale was always mobbed. Even the second to last year they did it. It was crazy, and I know the last year it was totally nuts because that's when the Blues sold the rights off to somebody else, and they weren't going to be AHL. And I mean, they were selling the big blow up skate out thing that they had. They were selling the mascot stuff for like $500. Some of that kind of stuff they were a little overpriced on, because who the hell, unless you're a collector and really want that stuff bad, who's going to have room for the giant inflatable skate through that nobody else can use? or the mascot because they weren't gonna to move on with it. But
That's
but
the dumb shit. That's the dumb shit you hear selling for like $5,000 like 30 years later, though. You know, like,
exactly.
where the fuck did you find this thing? Right?
Well,
I got it at the AHL sale like in '77. Everyone's like, oh, that's crazy. You'll never see another one of those. It's almost ridiculous.
And I caught they had a sale with it's a UHL team, the Bloomington Thunder. It was the last year that they were going to USHL the following year, and that morning they put a thing up saying there was going to be an equipment sale at noon, and it was just whatever they had left. I picked up some nice Easton helmet for me to play in. The thing's light as hell. I think I paid like $25. Bought a bunch of odds and ends stuff, and I mean spent next to nothing for all of it. But those are the kind of sales I like. Is teams aren't trying to screw you because some popular guy's name's on it. They sell it for a reasonable amount of money, and I don't have a problem paying $200 for skates that are $700 or $800 new.
Check this out.
All right, so have you guys gotten a chance to read some of the articles that I wrote about the Red Wing sale?
Seen a little bit of it.
I saw the Ohio sale. I read about that. How that was a disaster. Not the Red Wing sale.
Last year, I tried to do like live tweeting of the Red Wing sale, and then we wrote an article of it after. And me and Jason went to the Red Wing sale, and just to kind of give you a heads up, like when you're at the Red Wing sale, the prices, those are more memorabilia prices, like we talked about earlier, where the Griffin stuff is really dirt cheap. The Wing stuff is memorabilia prices for sure. I mean, pants are I think $225, helmets are $225 to $250, sticks used are $125 to start. So I mean, not the best prices, especially if you plan on using the gear. But they allowed the playoff or the season ticket holders in about an hour early. So if you're a season ticket holder, you get there a little bit earlier than everybody else.
That's good. At least you get something out of that, right? At least there's some kind of appreciation factor.
It gives you, it leaves a good taste in your mouth for being a fan.
Yeah,
it's loyalty factor. And so when you get there, like if you took a head count of the number of people that were there right before the doors open, I would say there was a good 200 to 250. And Hockeytown Authentics is not a big place at all. I think at max capacity you can fit 75, 100 people in there, and with all the extra racks and everything, it's pretty tough. So I mean, it gets really arm to arm. A lot of people go there, and by the time the sale is done, just about all the pieces of equipment are gone. And then really the only stuff that's remaining is jerseys.
It's hard to blame the team for charging memorabilia prices
when they sell it all.
That's right. I mean, there was I think there was a post recently. I'm not sure if it was on GameWorn.us. It was on a site regarding what was left over from the Toronto sales over the last 2-3 years, and it was just at least half of the inventory that they intended to sell. So it's completely different, right? I mean, I think it's hard to blame the Red Wings for selling stuff and then actually being able to move it, and that's what the supply. But it's different. I know I keep going over the Toronto end, but really a difference between giving it to your fans and everyone kind of getting something, and the Toronto market where you know they'll just put it in rather put it in storage and not sell it for a discounted price than sell it. So
yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
You should be wanting to get rid of all your stuff because more stuff is going to be coming, and the longer you sit on it, the less valuable it gets.
Did you guys see the post of all of the excess Maple Leaf stuff? It wasn't that long. It was about 2 months ago. Anyone catch that or no?
Yeah, I think there was a PDF attachment showing all the prices of everything.
That was the original sale, but there was a post. Someone it was someone from Real Sports. An affiliate of Real Sports. I think it was Brandon, actually.
Yeah, Brandon Marsh.
That's right. And he posted all the stuff they had left over, and it was just an astronomical amount of stuff.
And
well,
there's got to be a fine line there. You would think they would want to get rid of it, but then again, if look, like you said, talking about Toronto, the way they are with their money and stuff is, unless they get decent money, they don't want to cut it loose, which is total crap.
See, so the experience I've had with these team sales is different, far different than what you guys have obviously. I would love to go to like an AHL style sale where it was more about the fans.
One of the things that really gets me too is taking a look at the Red Wings sale versus the San Jose Sharks sale is the amount of equipment. I don't know where the difference is, or if somebody buys, like the team buys way too much and just sells it later for cheap. But if you compare some of the pictures between the two sales, and the Sharks are selling their equipment for, used equipment prices versus the Red Wings selling it at memorabilia prices. But when I've been to the Red Wings sale, we're looking at maybe 10 to 15 helmets, maybe 20 pairs of skates, pants on very limited quantities, maybe 5 to 10 pants. Sticks, it's still a pretty limited amount of sticks. I mean, they only have 2 racks of sticks usually. I saw a pair of goalie pads there once, goalie chest protector, gloves that go extremely quick. I think maybe at some points you have uh, 20 pairs of gloves. They go through way more than that. But you go to the shark sale and they've got like table, like a 2 foot, 3 foot wide table stretching, what is it, 50 feet, just filled with gloves. They've got goalie pads like out the yin yang, man, like 10 sets, 12 sets of goalie pads, matching gloves to boot. They've got miles of sticks, brand new and used helmets, like 3, 4 tables full of helmets. I
Well,
mean, just the quantity alone.
Are the Sharks selling all their stuff?
Uh, for the most part, from what I understand, there might be a little bit of residual leftover just because of the blanket quantity of it. But they're getting through a lot. I know the goalie sticks sold out, goalie pads sold out, gloves gone, helmets were in very low stock, at least from some of the finalized pictures that I've seen.
It makes sense then, though, because you said the Red Wing stuff, there's much less of it. It's higher priced, right?
Right, but
Steve,
why? How are they getting less stuff and the Sharks have that much more? I'm just curious as to where the equipment is coming from.
It's all the equipment managers, right? It's how long they want to. I mean, you look at stuff from that they had in the 80s, right? For the Maple Leafs, it was around mid 90s. That's when they started kind of branching off and patching their jerseys with the game worn stuff. You would see, Doug, I'll give you a good example. Doug Gilmour in, 90, 91, 91, 92. It's the Leafs equipment managers are a very strange bunch, but theoretically supposed to be for each Leaf, a set 1 and a set 2, only 2 sets. You look at Doug Gilmour's 95, 96 set, and he's got 12 sets, right? So, or sorry, it is 12 sets. It's six home and 6 away. So I think that's kind of like the Red Wings and the Sharks. The Sharks they're using far more equipment. They're going for much lower prices, and the Wings probably are back in that, maybe not the old school days where a player used to wear 4 jerseys a year, but at least more leaning towards that, which I prefer as a collector. I want to see some kind of wear on what I buy.
And what it could be too is maybe the Wings with if it's all higher end players or the more regular players, they either send it with the players when they leave, or they may be donating a lot of the excess off to local teams, to the
good stuff
the AHL affiliate, because I know some other teams do a little bit of that where they'll send a portion of it to a local team, or like the youth hockey programs. So it could be some of that, and the Sharks just have the massive sale.
Well, the Sharks back in the it's funny the way the Sharks do it now, because they were notorious back in the 90s for being the worst team ever to deal with in terms of game worn and game used memorabilia. You couldn't get any of it. They didn't sell it. They just recycled everything or kind of just got rid of it. It wasn't, so it's nice to see it's turned around that way, and they've taken a completely different approach.
Oh yeah, they're definitely a fan favorite.
And maybe it's people like us, collectors and people that have reached out to them saying, hey, there's a market for this. Why don't you do something with it?
You know, that could be very well the case. I know a lot of teams, when it comes to jerseys and things like that, they don't see us being collectors wanting the jerseys. They just think, you know, we'll get rid of this any way, shape, or form, and they don't really have a format to get rid of them. And, you know, if you don't have a good laid out format and you're dealing with jersey collectors that are also fans, it really leaves a bitter taste in people's mouths. And it sucks, especially for your hardcore, diehard fans, anybody that's local. If they don't have the same opportunity to get something as somebody else, you know, you can really create problems for yourselves.
I,
And
I remember I remember I only got into collecting about 2.5, 3. I haven't been doing it very long. Only about 2.5, 3 years. And it's funny because I never knew you could actually own a player's game worn jersey. I was blown away. I saw one time and I'm like, this is absolutely incredible. How could anyone ever own anything like this? I think part of the fault of the teams. I don't think they're guilty of it now. I certainly think they were guilty of it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, is not realizing that there was a market for this stuff, that it made collectors feel closer to the game, which is what I think that's what most people want out of the hobby, is to just feel closer to the game.
I think there's definitely an advancement in that, but some of the things that I've been seeing too is just employees that don't want to do extra work. You know, because sometimes, you know, for us, our collectors can be a little bit weird and they want to know different details and things like that, and you have to communicate with them, and it's extra work on their part to sell these jerseys, and they'd rather just get rid of them, anybody who wants to buy them or anything like that, and they'll do it at any cost as opposed to trying to really just appease people. And it's really not that.
Laziness. Sorry, Derek, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Laziness, yes, but if you look at the especially around the 80s, that was when the equipment managers, and it goes into the 90s too. If you look at Gretzky with St. Louis, if you ask, there's a collector, his name is Joe Esposito, out of Alberta. The kind of corruption that went on from the side of the equipment managers is incredible. Actually, I have a jersey. It's a Glenn Anderson jersey. It was sold by an anonymous source, because these are past equipment managers that their kind of bonus or their kickback at the end of the year is they get to keep the gear and sell it to collectors. So it's not always a matter of laziness. Sometimes it's a matter of these aren't even up for public auction or public sale. These are sold privately.
And that's a really good point. I think in this day and age, we get a little bit farther away from that because I think teams are starting to see more of the value in it. I mean, you're seeing teams handling them with Migrate coming into play, really showing the teams and pushing jersey sales as far as like making teams aware of what's going on out there. It's definitely really evident, but one of the things that they can do is reach out. Like, it's very easy to reach out to a collector and get an opinion. I know out in San Jose, Mitch Amaya, hopefully he doesn't mind me talking about him, but he's worked with the Sharks, from what I hear, a couple times and actually helped them develop some sort of system for their set tagging, and the charity foundations, coming up with different ideas, I guess, or at least putting the bug in their ear to do specialty jerseys for like warm ups and things like that. So I mean, it's not hard to find a collector that's willing to help you out. I mean, at GameWorn.us, we're even looking to work with teams that have maybe a lackluster jersey program, and just either giving them advice or helping them to run their program or take some of the workload off of it. Because I mean, we can be pretty demanding. Everybody wants to know where on the jerseys and what is your current stock list, and do you have any pictures, and how much, and if I buy more than one, what prices can I get them at, and things like that. And that's one of the things that we really want to do eventually is help teams develop their program so it's really collector friendly. We're trying to get it out of the hands of dealers, like the example we have on our website with the OSU sale, where you know a dealer goes in, swoops up 40, 50 jerseys, takes it off to the corner, and starts weeding through which ones they want. Next thing you know, every single jersey's gone, and the collectors that were there just behind him in line don't get anything. And then they show up on eBay for 3 times as much.
And I'll give you another prime example of that using the Blues is the third sets. A company out of Florida got them, and I'm not knocking them because I talked to them about a jersey and ended up buying it because I wanted to play like the player. Several other people I know bought jerseys, but the pricing was pretty high on some of the high end guys. Tarasenko, I don't know what his sold at, but it was up there. Um, and some of the others, and then the Blues stuck the not much wear playoff set in the stores, and they were, I'd say, almost half in most cases of what the other stuff was listed for. And the fans, yeah, they were the playoff set, and they only saw a handful of games, but those got snatched up faster. And now this company's got a bunch on eBay that they can't move because the other set came out there. There's a lot of inconsistencies on, and I don't know why the Blues use this company out of Florida because a guy last year, local to St. Louis, bought I think it was the playoff set, and the Blues sold the third set that they auctioned him off. But he worked with all the people. He's a collector as well, so he knew from the collector mindset how to work with what the people wanted. He made deals with payment plans, all kind of stuff, and made it really good for the collector. Whereas this company out of Florida jacked the prices up, and there's still a bunch sitting out on eBay now.
And that's one of the nice
And
things that you get when you're working with a collector too, is they know who they're dealing with. They are making a name for themselves in the hobby, making friends, and it takes the work out of the team's hands and puts the burden on the collector, but the collector has a passion for it. And there's a difference.
well, you look at My Gray. I mean, the Leafs are a good example of the kind of the St. Louis model because they've recently split. Previous to that, they were doing Real Sports. 100% of their jerseys were done through Real Sports. Now it's a half split with My Gray, and there's the argument that there's two sides of the coin, right? Do you want My Gray taking over a team's jerseys, and they have the overhead they have, and they have to do their due diligence? Is that worth the price that you have to pay, the premium of what you have to pay on the jersey? And it's just an interesting argument. And which one would you rather buy your stuff direct from the team, or would you rather buy it from a professional organization like My Gray? There's pros and cons on both sides.
Yeah, one of our objectives is to try and collaborate a bunch of information in one spot. So if you're a collector of game worn jerseys, any team, you've got one spot to go to, and it's really just it's very hard to get everybody on the same page. And you're definitely right. There's pluses and minuses to each point of distribution, and finding that middle ground of what people like or what people want is a really touchy thing. I mean, anytime you throw anything out there, you're always going to have the naysayers that are going to say, well, we don't need that, or this, that, and the other, but they also might be getting spoon fed and they're happy with that as well. So it's really a fine line to appease everybody.
And My Gray, especially when they had earlier in the my collecting years when they made the deals with, God, it was what, almost every team in the league I think had made a deal, and it was nice with the Blues. I could reserve a player ahead of time and I could, if more multiple sets were available, I could pick and choose if one had more wear over the other, and they'd work with you on that kind of stuff because they knew what we wanted and what we were looking for. And I think some of the other teams and some of the other groups are getting it. I recently I made a purchase last season with the Blue Jackets. My friend of mine, Mike McKenna, was called up by the Blue Jackets, played a handful of games there, and at the end of the season, I got their email that listed the jerseys for sale. So right after their fan fest, the jerseys were for sale to the general public. I called them up and said, "Is this particular white jersey still available?" And I said, "Does it have a big puck mark down the front of it?" They looked and said, "Yep, that's it." I paid and had it within a day or two, and they were good about pulling it off the rack and telling me over the phone what it looked like and what the wear was like, and it wasn't a big issue. But yeah, you've got other teams that you call up the store and they could give two shits about anything. It's, yeah, it's here and here's the price. Come take a look at it.
The Montreal Canadiens are infamous for being a team that only sells through the team and kind of not for the fan, not for the collector. It's just a prime example of, in that case, I would much rather have a company like My Gray doing the authentication, the marketing, sales. I really do see the value in what My Gray does. Of course, some of their prices can be kind of high, but there is at least a value to it.
Yeah, I definitely
And it,
think they've been a great asset to the hobby from some of the work that I've seen, especially taking some of the lackluster game worn jersey programs and beefing them up to the point where it's actually marketable to the collector.
and yeah, I mean, any organization, no matter who you are, some of the pricing, depending on who the player is, you may think is kind of an average player, and the pricing's high. But then, I mean, like anything else, you wait, you can call them up, and you might be able to cut a better deal. Or some people I know will only buy during the summer sales or the sales at Christmas time, or you let them sit on them and find the way to do it. But like any other company, if you sit down with them and nice and say, hey, can we make a deal? You might be able to do that. And those are the kind of companies I'd rather work with than people that just don't give a damn.
You're talking about the collector out of Florida that bought up a bunch of the jerseys from the team, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you collect older jerseys, authentication really does come into question. I don't know if you guys have been burned on a jersey before. I've been burned and then vindicated on a jersey, but the feeling it really is horrible. It's when you don't have a company doing their due diligence, whether it's the team or whether it's someone like My Gray, when you have those team sales that get kind of shuffled off to these shady individuals, let's say, it really does. It's not only bad for the hobby, it's bad for the team. With the image that they have on how they treat collectors is really bad. I mean, the Leafs out of the '80s I keep talking about the Leafs, but there's such great examples of what they used to do with their jerseys and recycle them into 2-3 years, which some people like and some people don't like. But it was just it makes it so it does an injustice to the hobby because you don't know what you're buying is real or not, and that's why I think team sales are great, but companies like My Gray are also just super beneficial to teams that really just can't be bothered to do it themselves.
Yeah, it definitely comes down to manpower. I mean, a lot of them don't want to pay that extra added workload to, make sure things are authenticated or sold properly. They just want to get it done and get it out.
Well, and you mentioned back in the older the 80s and into the 90s where you've got the equipment guys, and I'm not going to knock any of those guys because that's not my style. But knowing the blues ones is, and it wasn't necessarily always the blues' fault. It was the custom crafted the specials.
That's right.
They'd fake the wear and everything else on them, and a lot of those circulated around the hobby for the longest time.
The Bruin ones were horrible. If you ever saw examples of those,
and that was the huge thing. Even into the mid 2000s, I remember you'd see those jerseys pop up on eBay or different places, and there'd be a ton of research done. And that's the good thing about the hobby is you get the experts that can look at those and say, yeah, that's a custom crafted special. But you get people that don't know and see the awesome price or don't think, and they're stuck with a fake jersey.
And that's one of the things that the various teams do a little bit different too. Some are into the set tagging, which can be pretty hard to duplicate. I know the Griffins are putting set tags in the back of the jerseys, which is great. The Red Wings are putting tagging in the jerseys multiple places. They've got the barcode. They have the screened numbering system for their internal. They have the set tags stitched into the hem with letters of authentication. So some teams do it really good, and then others, when you go to buy it from the team, you might not even get so much as a letter.
And it's really a shame, and I'll tell you why. I'm not an advocate for My Gray. Listen, to be quite honest with you, I've never bought anything off My Gray in my life. I bought My Gray products and jerseys they've had. I've bought them from private collectors, but those jerseys have security features on them where the authentication is, it's quite easy to authenticate those. And I'll give you a good example. The jerseys the jerseys that are tagged by the Maple Leafs, those are, you see those set tags for sale on places like eBay, and you can actually buy the set tag, and so you got to wonder, as good a job as teams are doing now with introducing set tagging, are they really doing a good enough job so that the authenticity is 100% there?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, because there was a situation not too long ago where somebody was making authentic Red Wing jerseys complete with set tags. Now you could kind of, if you looked really good, you could tell that the set tag was a knockoff, but you see them pop up every now and then. They had like a batch creation of these replica or authentic jerseys with set tags in them. And I don't think they were selling them as game worn jerseys, but still the fact remains is they're putting, a falsified set tag in there, and so people don't know the difference.
Well, and the biggest joke ones you see are the knockoffs that have the Migrate Group ones inside, and group is spelled GROOP.
Oh yeah, those are great. And I've seen those. I saw Sidney Crosby pop up locally.
I think that's the most popular one, actually.
Yeah, that's
the Winter Classic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it is like anything else, and we've heard this time and time again from people, is do your research. If you're unsure, there's plenty of people that aren't gonna, if you bring this jersey up, say, hey, I've got questions, what do you guys think? There's plenty of people that can look at that and give good advice. And I mean, use the hobby. None of us know everything. I mean, I know a very small portion of how the Blues do their stuff, and I mean, I've held a lot of different jerseys, but even still, I mean, there's somebody that knows 100 times more than I do on Blues jerseys. I could say, hey, what do you think of this one? And they can rattle off 200 things right or wrong with it.
On GameWorn.us, one of the things we have under our top menu on the collector's corner, I believe, is a link to team experts, which are people that have signed up willingly, that know a sufficient amount of authentication tips, we'll say, about specific teams, and they don't mind if you get a hold of them and ask them questions, send them pictures, and say, hey, what do you think about this?
And that's what makes this hobby great. And like you said, you get teams and you get groups out there that, like Steiner, that you can order 6 of the same guy's jerseys because he's going to wear them in 2 games that season, and flood the market with stuff, and you may see a puck mark on it.
And this is the thing that hurts the hobby, because if you look at this like a real collectibles are supposed to appreciate in value. Something that's considered special, you can't reproduce. When you see a jersey that's worn for 2 games, you buy that as a collector because you think it's going to appreciate in value. How do you authenticate that 20 years down the road? There's no photo match, maybe there's no set tag, maybe there is, but maybe when the teams were tagging it, it's something like you're going to see these knockoff jerseys that have the same set tagging. How do you really know? So that's the issue I have with the kind of wear that you see on the jerseys nowadays, where it's just so minimal, and it's just so hard to identify exactly what you're buying as a collector and as someone who wants to make an actual investment.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it looks like we're getting pretty low on time with what we have remaining. I want to give a big thank you to you guys for participating. Chad, I don't know if you're still there. We haven't heard much from you, but appreciate you being on the call.
I've just been back here listening. I'm very new to it. I got less than a year into it, so.
Well, we're glad to have you. Jason, it's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad I can come on and hopefully spend some more time online.
Marco, thanks again for joining us.
No worries, man. We should do this more often. It should become a weekly, at least a monthly, but hopefully a weekly event.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I had a really good time, so I'm definitely not opposed to doing this more often. We'll just check in to see if schedules permit. So thanks for everybody who's listening. I want to remind you, feel free to visit GameWorn.us, sign up for our forums, interact with us. One of the ways to keep an eye on when we're going to be doing the show again is through our forums and through our Facebook. So check us out on Facebook, GameWorn.us. We're pretty easy to find. If you guys have any questions, you can always feel free to submit them on the forum, or if you have are listening live on the web, you can actually submit them right through the chat feature. Thank you for listening. We'll check you out next time. Thank you.